I've mentioned it to you a few times. It's a play coming up next weekend, Saturday, October 26th and Sunday, October 27th at the Royal Spa Hotel in Lisdoonvarna at 8 p.m. It's called The Only Punk Rocker in the Village, which just from the moment I saw it struck me as an absolutely brilliant name for a play, and contains the struggles of a man called Dermott Petty. And Dermott joins us on the phone now. Dermott, how are you tonight?
I'm very good, Tom. Thank you for having us on.
Tell me about this. You were in County Clare and punk rock came on the radio?
Exactly. I grew up in North Clare and punk rock came in via John Peel one dark winter's night, and it was the Eddie Cochran thing, but it was by accident. But this was before the advent of the internet, so you were grasping at straws trying to find out what punk rock was about.
What kind of bands was it?
It was, at the time, it was a lot of Sex Pistols, of course, The Clash, X-Rays, Tom Robinson Band, the Adverts, the Radiators from Space, of course, were a big factor as well. And the Boomtown Rats and some of the other bands as well. But it was, John Peel was like an education. It was like our deck of cards, how to find out about the outside world.
You're so lucky to be able to get them. So, how did this affect you?
It much more than I realised, because the genesis of the play was what the factors are going up in North Clare, and the thing was that it made me question the outside world. It made me question the world I was in, and it was also just a lot of fun. The music was brilliant. I mean, it was, you danced like a mad leopard doing the pogo dancing, but it wasn't appreciated at the U Club as much as I thought it might be. And, it also was that, trying to find a girlfriend and stuff. And that didn't work as well as I thought either. When I was the only punk rocker in the village, there was another half punk rocker. And this was my friend Barry, and he was away at boarding school. So he was like a Wild West scout coming back with new records and stories of what the music could be like.
Because when I heard punk rock, I was very lucky that there were lots of people around me. I went into school and, well, in a class of whatever, 30, there was probably 2 more people in the class. But at least there were 2 more. So yeah, it must have been very frustrating for you.
It was ridiculous. I mean, it was again a village, so it's not like, again, where you might be some people into heavy rock or some people into rockabilly. There was no other genre. It was just punk rock, and then the rest were listening to Boney M and ABBA and disco. So it was, and traditional music is huge around here.
Yeah, of course.
That determines everything, and I was going the other way, so I was seen as, the anti-earth at this stage.
Was it very obvious you were going the other way? I mean, did you look like a punk?
Well, this is where it differs a little. In the fancy boutiques, I didn't have a mohawk and stuff, but I have, in history in North Clare, I was the first male to wear an earring, which still brings up conversation in pubs late at night. I didn't realise it was a fashion pioneer at the time, and my partner will testify, I'm not exactly a fashion icon at this moment in time. But it was more the pogo dance, it was more the boots, it was more the torn T-shirts, and it was just, and I wanted to be Johnny Rotten. I had more like Frank Spencer.
And what was the reaction to this? I mean, how did your parents take it?
Well, they were confused at first, then they were horrified, and then they just hoped that it would go away. And they were very hard-working, and they were, and like one of the things that while I grew up in North Clare, I was actually born in Chelsea. I moved back when I was young, so they had in London had been at the heart of the punk rock. I didn't really realise till years later, but they really thought when back then it was the best thing for us, and we were given us opportunities. And I was at secondary school, and I was failing because I was dyslexic. I was undiagnosed, so I was, a sore thumb in every sense of the fashion, and punk rock probably just made that much worse than it was.
Right. God, I can only imagine what that must have been like, because, I mean, did you get up to Dublin at all to see any gigs? Did you manage to find any creatures like yourself?
No, there'd be tours. I went on a school tour once, and I actually snuck off from the tour and went into Pat Egan's and the Advanced Records to buy some records, because I'd seen in Hot Press that's where it was. But mostly you were on your own, and it was even some of the scenes, they didn't even make it into the play. We only had the one TV channel. The second channel came in top of the pops, and suddenly you'd have the Buzzcocks. So you'd be there with your tape recorder ready to press it. and you play the record, and the next day when you played it back, you'd hear, Ever Fallen in Love, and the next thing you'd hear my father giving out about, Tricia, will you come in here? What are we paying this television license for? Why are those clowns on the TV? So it was that, not quite the same as, the urban experience.
No. But there must have been some punks close enough. I'm thinking of The Walls. They were in Ennistimon.
They were, and they were a couple of years after me, because I remember hearing once that Steve Wall was trying to put, because Ennistimon has a terrible radio reception, but Ennistimon would have, but Ennistimon's a town and we were a village. There's an awful difference. I know it sounds peculiar, but even particularly in the 70s, like you would think Ennis, you had the lads with the duffel coats to be into Horselips and Deep Purple, and then you had a few others with the jackets to be into Status Quo, and there'd be one or two punks, or Limerick or Galway, but it was only when I went to Dublin they actually met punks. And then my friend Barry had a few of his classmates. Actually, one of them is the lead singer with Paranoid Vision, Deco.
Oh, right.
He actually came to Lisdoonvarna at one point and danced around like a mad leopard. But I'm sure he doesn't want to remember that. But
What a day that must have been in Lisdoonvarna.
They're still talking about
it. So, did you have an outlet for it? Did it go anywhere? I mean, I formed a band.
Well, you see, this is the irony of it. I didn't. I was strictly from a fan, and it was one of those things. Like another friend was talking to me about, maybe the story of punk rock, like the tones being played twice by young people. But my partner, who's directing it, Joan O'Hanrahan, made a very good point. This is your story, and it's really kind of like how punk rock influenced you into the outside world, and also because it was so hard to find out about it. There's a lot of comedy in that.
Yes.
And really what it is, I'm a filmmaker now, and a lot of it is there's the do-it-yourself ethos in punk rock, which are really important. And I wasn't that interested in forming a band, but when the do-it-yourself ethos, like of, say, Factory Records or Rough Trade or the bands doing it and playing, I really bring that in a lot into my filmmaking and to my theatre work, because it's very much about just trying to do what you can with what you have.
Yeah.
I think punk rock was fantastic that way, because before prog rock and all happened, or punk rock happened, it was almost like you needed a degree to play an instrument.
Yes.
Just for a strange 2 years. And then it went right back to that garage rock garage thing like the Beatles had and stuff. So it was a huge liberating thought that I could do things without knowing that.
Exactly the word, liberating. You have already premiered this in Barnstable, the Fringe Theatre. How did it go?
It went really well, because it was terrifying, because I was there. I knew no one, and we had packed houses each night, and they loved it. I think a lot of it was Barnstable to be about the size of Ennis, so they knew my struggle. What I was saying wasn't exactly new. Because the irony is, and just as a brief note, when I did go to Dublin, I worked in O'Donoghue's pub, and it was right around the corner from Advanced Records on Stephen's Green. So I used to go to the Dandelion Market every weekend. So I probably saw U2 and all the other bands. I was like, that person at GPO that was there.
We were probably in the room together.
Most likely, man. And I was like, I remember I was at one gig at the Baggett Inn. The Blades were the support band. There was 7 people, and 3 were throwing glasses at the band.
Yeah.
And it was a brilliant gig.
There weren't many people. It sounds like a great idea. Is there music in it?
There's music. We have the Ramones, we have the Sex Pistols, the Radiators from Space, Ian Jury, and Piss Factory by Patti Smith.
Oh, wonderful.
That is one of the incidents that did really happen, is I got a New Wave compilation, and my mother had to pay custom charges, which was, I didn't know this, and, I learned then and there. And then instead of going to track 1, I went to track 3, which played Patti Smith's Piss Factory, which I thought was brilliant, and my mother thought was the Antichrist. So that's the difference there.
Oh, man. I have to say, that track 2 stopped me in my tracks, and I have a feeling we may have the same compilation. It's not a little small red-sleeved thing, is it?
Exactly the album. Exactly the album. And that changed my life, that album. There's no two ways around it.
Man.
By the sonic producer, all this brilliant stuff there.
I have that one too. I'll bring it in next week and play a few tracks.
Oh, please do. Please do.
Dermot, it sounds absolutely brilliant. It's going to be, just to remind people again, Saturday, October 26th and Sunday, October 27th, the Royal Spa Hotel at 8 p.m. I hope you get a lovely crowd and
brilliant.
And are never the only punk rocker in the village ever again, Dermot.
That's the power of culture, you know. By this time next week, there could be 2, maybe even 3 punk rockers.
Who knows? Who knows? Go mad. Dermott, lovely talking to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Tom.